Hi, everyone. Marianne Croce here from Small Biz Vantage, and I am excited to be here this week for this week's Business Leadership in 15 Minutes. I do these lives once a week on Tuesdays for a couple of reasons. One is I like to keep current with the things that I'm talking to my clients about, the topics that are coming up in conversations with business owners. I like to keep it relevant and real. And the idea here is also to shift your vantage, your perception, the way that you look at your business. Shift it so that you can turn it into your competitive advantage. Think a little bit differently, and then have one action item that you could take away this week and apply to your business. Now, if you find this valuable, please let's help another business owner out and share it because I believe in paying it forward. So, this week's topic is the blame game dangers. And I came up with this topic because of an incident that actually happened in my brick and mortar business, automotive repair shop that my husband and I have owned since 1999. So this is like a real example, something that is current and happened over the last couple of weeks. We had been working with a customer and they brought their vehicle in and we tested it, diagnosed what the problem was, and we ordered a part that was needed from the dealership. And what happened was the part had come in. We verified that the part was correct. It was ordered, by application. For those of you that aren't in the automotive space, that means that your year, make, and model and VIN were used so that you would get the correct part. And after installing the part, the next step was the vehicle had to be programmed. So that was done, but the programming didn't work. Now, what happened was the vehicle started fine before the programming, but it didn't start after the programming. So we contacted the company who was doing the programming and it was checked. And we verified again with the dealership, the part order, that was rechecked. Everything was verified. So when we contacted the dealer again, their response was, you must have done something wrong. And we had a conversation with them. And basically, the dealer was blaming the programming company, and the company who did the programming was blaming the dealer part. And there was a lot of blaming going back and forth. And what was lost there was the customer, our customer. So Tony, my business partner and husband, was calm about it. It was frustrating because he wanted to really best serve our customer, but he was the one that was taking it to the next level. He was calm, but he really wanted to get to the root cause of the problem because we wanted to solve this. After speaking with one of our master technicians together, they believed that the part had been wrong, that we were sold the wrong part, even though that we were told numerous times that this part was the correct part. Everything that they did, everything that they revisited told them that this can't be the correct part. So Tony ended up calling 2 different dealerships, and he called them twice to confirm that part. But at one of the dealerships, there was a woman there who decided to take it to the next level. And she went and read more of the information that was provided on this particular part. And she found the information that was needed. And it was like, wow, finally somebody stepped it up and, went to the next level. For that year, make, and model, we were sold the wrong part. There was another part number. And these 2 parts looked identical and they fit correctly. The new part looked exactly like the old part, the original part that was on the vehicle, when it was purchased new. So they looked identical, but there was a chip inside that affected, right, a system in the vehicle that needed reprogramming. And that's what was different. So here now was another challenge. The programming didn't take because the programming was set for a different part and the wrong part was installed. So even the dealer didn't know how to correct this issue. They were stumped and they had to contact their engineering team. Now that we finally were all on the same page and the blaming stopped, we were able to get to the solution. So we ended up bringing the vehicle to the dealer because they had to contact their engineering department, and it went there, and it took about over a week for them to actually be able to tell us, what had happened. And then they figured it out, and we were able to pick up the car on the weekend. We're typically closed on the weekend, but we felt that the customer had waited long enough. So we picked up the vehicle on the weekend, and the car was actually delivered this week to the customer. And the customer was thrilled, and the customer was so appreciative that we didn't give up. And, we got to the root cause of the problem, and we were able to resolve it. So when we were talking about this afterwards, Tony and I, if you know me, like there's always takeaways. There's always something that, we can learn from an experience. So my question was, okay, what did we learn from this? And at first, Tony was like, I was thinking about that. And he said, I don't know what I could have done differently. He was trying to figure out, how he could learn, what he could do for next time in case he ran into something similar. And I said, I don't necessarily think there was anything that you could have done differently because you were very supportive with the team in getting to the root cause of the problem. But I said my takeaway from this is the blame game is dangerous and it really doesn't do any good. I mean, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help a business. It doesn't help your team. And most importantly, it doesn't help the customer or the client who you're working with. I mean, the blame game just is very destructive. It costs a lot of time. So mistakes are really going to happen. And, when something does go wrong, and they will, right? Things are going to happen and things are going to go wrong. I think the best thing to do is really to assess the situation and deal with it to the best, the best way that you can, because you really want to best serve your customer, your client. So keeping the customer, keeping the client in mind is the best way to handle these types of situations when these challenges come up and these things happen. Because, in the end, it really doesn't help anyone to keep this blame game going. And it doesn't do any good to try to make someone else look bad, right? Or assume that you and your team are perfect and that we have all the answers to everything, right? We want to be problem solvers and we want to figure things out. So what this could actually do is ruin a culture, a company culture, because you're not focusing on the solution when you're playing this blame game, right? And people are watching you. So you're not being an example, or a good example, I should say. You are an example, but not necessarily the kind of example that you want to be. And I think the other thing to remember is to focus on the learning part, because everybody in the shop learned something from this. So did the company that we brought in, that we subletted to do the programming. They also learned about this too, because that was the first time they had heard about it. And in the end, the dealership learned something as well. So If everyone had focused on the learning from the beginning, I think even though this was a great understanding customer, I think that the experience for the customer could have been much better. So that's why I think it's important not to play the blame game in your business. But why do people do this? Like, why do we do this? Why does this blame game, happen? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because what was a little bit frustrating for me is when the dealership got to the problem and they realized that the wrong part was sold to us, even though they insisted that it wasn't. It was actually a woman, at the dealership that helped and really went to the next level. What their comment to us is, well, we went and we looked a little bit further because we know your company and we know you and we know your reputation is good. So that's why they did it. And I just thought that that was a really poor answer. They should be doing that for everyone, not just for, the reasons that they stated. So why do people play the blame game? And one of the reasons is it's a defense mechanism. They want to save their self-esteem or boost their self-esteem because it's low after something happened. So the first thing that they do is they go into like this defense mode and they want to defend themselves. So they'll use the blame game. The second thing is it's much easier to blame others than it is to take responsibility. Responsibility is tough, but as business owners, that's what we signed up for. We have to be responsible. We're responsible for things that we haven't actually done because we're an owner. We're not doing everything in the company. We've hired people, we have team members, but we're still responsible for the outcome. So we have to take responsibility. We can't always be blaming it on someone else. And the last reason that I think people do this, or there's more, but that's really, really important to me, is when someone feels like they're being attacked, they feel like their back is up against the wall, they will tend to blame others so that it's a way of escaping that feeling of being attacked. And this can happen with reviews. This can happen with someone not being happy with your service or not understanding, the work that is needed or work to be done. And they might say something to you that you feel personally attacked. So we have to be careful of that as business owners because we put so much of our heart and soul into our business and our core values are very, very important to us. We have to be very careful not to take things personally because when we take things personally, we can't see clearly. And it's very easy to fall into this trap, this very dangerous area of the blame game. And I wouldn't want that to happen to you. And I believe that there's something here when you think back of a blame game story that you have, right? Because everyone has one, whether it's personal or it's professional, and we can learn from them. So that's it for this week's Business Leadership in 15 Minutes. If you find this valuable, please share it. Let's encourage other business owners and help them. I know that business owners have a lot on their plate. So in 15 minutes, you can get these tips and, help you. So everyone, I look forward to next week's on Tuesdays, Business Leadership in 15 Minutes. Here's to a very enjoyable week.